Donald Trump reportedly lunged at a member of his own Secret Service attempting to wrest control of the steering wheel of his presidential vehicle when he was stopped from joining supporters at the Capitol on January the 6th. In dramatic testimony overnight at a hastily organised hearing, Cassidy Hutchinson, a top aide to former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, has outlined the events of that day from within the Trump camp.
She also revealed the president knew his supporters were armed and there was the potential for violence, but called for security to be lifted, arguing they weren't going to hurt him. Lots to talk about, so let's bring in North America correspondent Carrington Clark, who's at the US Capitol. Carrington, good morning to you. These were bombshells, one after another, from this former White House aide, weren't they?
Absolutely. It's the only way really to describe it. What we heard from Cassidy Hutchinson today, and it should be pointed out that this was somebody from the inner sanctum. Her office was just down the hall from the Oval Office. She was a senior aide to the Chief of Staff to the President, and she witnessed a lot of this herself. And what she described is a president who was repeatedly told by his senior staff, by his security staff, that there were some of his supporters who were attempting to get to his rally, this Stop the Steal rally, who were heavily armed. And the president's response to that was not being alarmed, but instead telling his staff that they should pull down the security in order to allow those people to join the rally. Partly, Cassidy says, because he wanted the photograph to look better. But perhaps the most extraordinary anecdote that we heard, and as you say, this was just a series of bombshells, is the scene she describes in The Beast, which is the presidential limousine, and Donald Trump entering this limousine at the end of the rally and telling his staff, his security detail, that he wanted to join his supporters in heading to the Capitol. He was told that wasn't possible for safety reasons, and this is what the president's response was.
The president said something to the effect of, "I'm the effing president, take me up to the Capitol now." To which Bobby responded, "Sir, we have to go back to the West Wing." The president reached up towards the front of the vehicle to grab at the steering wheel. Mr. Engel grabbed his arm, said, "Sir, you need to take your hand off the steering wheel. We're going back to the West Wing. We're not going to the Capitol." Mr. Trump then used his free hand to lunge towards Bobby Engel.
Donald Trump has already responded to this. He used his own social media site, Truth. He says that this is a kangaroo court, that there has been no cross-examination, and dismissed Cassidy Hutchinson as a bit player, says he doesn't even know her very well. But it's very hard for him to claim that there are really alternative motives here from Cassidy Hutchinson, who's obviously was thought of to be loyal enough to be appointed a senior aide to the Chief of Staff, to the President at the time. This isn't a political rival, and her testimony is damning of the President.
Yeah, and I noticed that Lynn Cheney also raised some concerns about witnesses being pressured. You know, this is not an easy thing to do for someone like Cassidy Hutchinson, but where does it all go from here?
Well, the House committee does not have the power itself to charge any of the players. They really are building a narrative, though, that they say all of these roads, these conspiracies lead back to the president. They themselves cannot charge the president, but the Department of Justice says that they are watching this very carefully. They have already taken action on some of the previous testimony that we've seen at these public hearings, followed up interviews, and actually seized things like mobile phones because of the testimony that's come through. The question, of course, is whether or not the Department of Justice would take the really extraordinary step of actually charging the former president or really some of his inner sanctum. But that remains to be seen, but we will have another public hearing next month.
Carrington Clark, thank you.